Digest. And we have a great guest. The fact that she's Italian American, I'm very happy about. Gianna Biscontini is with us. She she's here to talk about employee well-being, and in a world where everything's turned upside down in the last 3 years, things relationships have changed. I'm a dinosaur, so I'm always interested in learning what's happening. Gianna, Gianna, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. First, as we ask all our guests, tell us a little bit about yourself personally, then about your company, and finally, a website.
Gosh, where do I start? Personally, I'm a world traveler. I'm a homeowner. I am a nature lover and a dog lover. I've been interested in human behavior my entire life and have really dedicated my whole life and career to impacting life, work, and well-being. The company that I have is called Work Well, W3RKWELL. And what we do at Workwell is we combine the intersection of behavioral science, health, and business research in order to go into companies to make the environments healthier. The employee well-being space really started to become a yoga and salad band-aid. And what we understand as behavior analysts is that there are stress-inducing variables in the environment that reduce health and well-being, performance, retention, all of those bottom line behaviors that businesses actually care about. So we're a team of board certified behavior analysts. We go into the environment with our analytics tool. We assess the entire culture and the environment, and then we provide the information to the C-suite on root causes and barriers within the company that they can work on to improve health and happiness of their employees.
Okay, and your website again?
My
We
website.
slipped it into, but I'd say it separately.
Yeah, so my personal website is giannabiscontini.com. I do a lot of coaching and I just wrote a book. So that's my personal website, giannabiscontini.com. And my company website is Workwell, W3RKWELL.com.
And what's the name of your book?
Fuckless. I don't know if you can say that on your show. It's
No, please.
Yes, Fuckless, a guide to wild, unencumbered freedom. It evaluates the gender narratives that women are traditionally given, but I will say I think men have actually surpassed women in sales at this point.
Well, we'll get back to that book in a little bit, but I guess I asked, you say you talk to the C-suite, but they're often the cause of whatever environmental workplace environments are there. How can you tell them, hey, you're the problem?
Well, we don't, in science, we really are careful about causation versus correlation. Is leadership causing all the problems? We don't really know. Is it correlated? Potentially. But this is why it's really important to evaluate the environment. And by the environment, I mean people and processes or lack thereof within the company, which the corporate world likes to call culture. But we'd really just focus on what behaviors are reinforced and punished across any given environment, any group of people at any given time. And so we really take a systematic look at what goes on within the company. And sometimes it is leadership. That's one of the dimensions of our assessment, which I think leaders find really effective to identify their blind spots. I also do executive coaching if they bring me in for that. So I do get to work directly with the leaders. And as in regards to saying, hey, you're the problem, that's why we have data. Nobody wants to hear a personal opinion on whose problem it is, which is where science comes in. So we can actually take our assessment and the results and say, according to the cultural analysis of this company, here's where the issues are. And if leadership is involved in that, then I'm quite honest about that. That's what they pay me for.
Okay, but let me ask you a question. What kinds of behaviors do you identify that are, well, let's say, bad, used in quotes?
So there, some popular ones are rewarding people with more work and responsibility. So if you're working for me and you're doing a great job, I can say, hey, awesome job. I'm so excited that you're on board. You're doing such an amazing job. I'd love to give you this extra project to run. And I think we have this social currency where being needed is a social currency, being busy is a social currency. So the employee takes on the extra work and thinks of it as a pat on the back. It's really just rewarding someone with social attention, but ends up punishing their behavior. And so you actually shape the employee to avoid discretionary effort, avoid going above and beyond, because that has in the past resulted in more work, but not more money, and not a title change, and not a promotion or additional flexibility. And so we really have to be careful what we reward and punish in any given environment. What employees are really demanding now, especially after the pandemic, is flexibility, purpose, and compassion and empathy from leaders. And we do see a lack of that. We saw a lack of that before the pandemic. And I think everybody just got really excited to go back to work. And when you're moving quickly and when you're not able to sit and think and have some moments of reflection and peace, we do get going too quickly and we miss those important things like empathy, listening, and compassion, which is being demanded of leaders these days because employees are leaving in droves. And a lot of the reason it is because lack of empathy, communication, lack of flexibility, or lack of purpose in their job.
Okay, I guess I'm going to ask a question. I've asked this to several people because for over 75 now years, Dagwood, the comic, Blondie, has had a boss that's kicked him in the behind, not raised it, doesn't give him raises, etc. And yet, I believe that boss still exists in America today, in the world today. And I ask, how do you deal with bosses like that? Are they a dinosaur, or will they come back?
You know, I think it all really comes down to asking them, and how's that working for you?
Mhm.
um, we really focus, I'm very goal oriented. What are the results that you want? What are the results that you're hoping for out of this behavior? And really sit them down and tease it out. When you ask a leader or a boss like that, hey, do you think this behavior is leading to the result, the desired result that you want? Sometimes they say no, and it's a moment of enlightenment. Sometimes they say, I don't care, we just need to move forward, which is a whole other issue. And sometimes they say, yes, it actually is motivating people. Behavior is bi-directional. So if I'm treating you like that boss and kicking you in the pants and not treating you well, and you continue to perform like I need you to perform, with no pushback, with no burnout, with no signal that what I'm doing is bad for me or for the company, I'm going to continue to do it. And so we have this bi-directionality in behavior where employees will go complain about their leadership, but not actually say anything, or not actually show them, hey, you know what, my workday ends at 5 and I'm done here. And so I think employees are and continue to need to take a stand against bosses like that, and learn to have the authentic, empathetic communication skills to say, hey, look, maybe this has worked for you in the past, but for me, this isn't working. And here's what I need, and here's my solution. You've got to come to the table with a solution. The other side of that is the employees that say, we've talked to our boss, we've talked to our leader, he or she or they don't want to hear it. At that point, you've got to leave the company. There's really, your hands are tied. You gave them the opportunity, you confronted the problem like an adult, from a standpoint that made sense to them. And if they're still not willing to listen, then you're probably not going to be cared for in that company as you wish to be cared for, and then it's time to leave.
Well, to me, the interesting thing, but before we go further, your two websites for your book and for your company.
GiannaBiscontini.com and workwell.com.
Okay. But let us talk about that. It's been demonstrated if you go to in New York, um, uh, um, Amazon lost the union election in New York. It won the union election twice in Alabama. Same company, same group of people. It seems to me that there's something about the um, the workforce or the makeup of the work group that has something to do with how the uh, uh, the company prospers. Uh, when you come uh, in a multi-location, do you see that changes like that, the differences like that?
That's why we're an analytics company. I'm very interested to know, in a why the finance department in Orange County, California, is crushing it, but the finance company in Ohio isn't crushing it, or why the marketing team in this location is doing well and there's tons of retention and retention is very high, which is a good thing. Retention always isn't a good thing. Retention is very high, loyalty, happiness, productivity is very high, but in this place in Florida, it's not. There's something going on in the environment. Is it a cultural thing? Is it a lifestyle thing? Or is it differences in the environment, which is what it is most of the time? The people in that environment are operating differently and the employees are reacting differently as a result.
Well, let's go now, for the moment to your book. Tell us about your book.
The book began as a journal entry, October 1st, 2019, and I wrote the first 5 pages and I thought, this is great. I love what just came out of my head and I think people need it. And so, I spent the last couple years doing research, evaluating my own learning history, interviewing men and women and trans and non-binary folks to put this book together to focus on the stories and the narratives that were handed as women. We're supposed to be soft and be small and be chosen and be dependent and be sexy but sweet. And so I came up with these 10 narratives and really walked the reader through, where do those stories come from? Are they actually holding you back or aren't they? And if this is something that is so limiting to you, are you ready to drop this belief and create a new one? The book is highly marketed towards women, but I will say, I think just within the last couple of days, I just had 3 men on LinkedIn today post pictures of them with the book saying, this is amazing. I love this book as a man. It's helping me become a better man. Women just got their reproductive rights taken away. The world is not kind to women in our country right now. I want to be a better man, a better husband, a better dad. I love this book. It sheds light on women. But the book is really just about learning to live from the inside out on your own terms without the societal norms and expectations that aren't true for you. And so it's a guidebook. And I use behavioral science because you can read a book at home and be very inspired and say, that's amazing. I'm going to go out into the world as a different person, or I'm going to start to change my life. But you walk back out into the society that shaped you into the person that you're trying to break free from. And people don't like change. So the second part of the book is all about, okay, now that you've decided what narratives are harmful to you and what narratives you want to drop, here's how you go out into the world a little bit more solid and rooted and less likely to shape yourself, less likely to drift back to who you were. Women, but I would say everyone, but women especially, are given the narrative that we're supposed to live to be liked. And if we're not liked, then we're wrong, or we're bad, or we're doing something, abhorrent. And men don't really have to deal with that as much. I work with a lot of leaders that feel like they have to be liked all the time. But I think women are really harmed when they go out into society trying to be bigger, stronger, show their talents, speak their mind, and they're punished for it. And then because it's easier and it's exhausting to be a woman right now in this country, we say, okay, it's just easier to kind of slide back to being small and being soft. And so I really wanted to arm anybody, but especially women, with the tools to say, absolutely not. That's not true for me. I'm going to be tall today. I'm going to bring my A game today. I'm going to speak my truth today. And I'm sincerely unaffected by how you feel about it.
Yet, if a woman becomes assertive, she's often called something that rhymes with witch.
Right. I've earned many of those accolades. And I think the world just needs to get over it. And this is, and how does the world get over it and get used to stronger, louder, more powerful women? We've got to go out there and stop caring about being called names, right? And to say, that's a really interesting point. That's a really interesting perspective. Thank you for that. And move on with our lives and continue to live our lives as we know we are meant to live them.
Yet, no matter who the woman is, whether she's Sandberg or the head of General Motors, there's always people saying this or that about it that they would never say of a male.
Right.
You know, you expect the world to change as these women become more and more assertive, and powerful. But yet, you're also, in effect, challenging men who are who don't want it, who personally don't want the competition.
Yeah, I think when women get called those names, it speaks more to the person who's doing the name calling. And I think that the world has been separated into two groups of people, but mostly men. The men that can say, I'm going to sit down and shut my mouth and listen to women, and I'm going to listen to their experiences and trust that those experiences are real and true and be their ally and advocate. And now I'm more aware of my own biases because we all have them. And then there's a group of people, again, mostly men, who will revolt against any type of power that comes from a woman because it's almost like it takes their power. Power is not pie. If I have more power, it doesn't give you any less power. But I think that there are people with that power deficiency who feel very protective over their status and power because it's probably based on some sort of unfounded, unearned confidence or a skill set. And it shakes somebody when a woman rises up and takes control and takes power. So I think that we're really turning the tides. And the only way that we can do that is to get all genders in the room together. I can't stand to see things like female leadership summit. The tone is always, hey, women, the reason you're not in leadership positions is because there's something wrong with you. We need to fix you. You need to act more like a man. We're at the end of the day, it's total bullshit. Women aren't something that need to be fixed. We have a lot of skills that require zero additional training or effort. We just need a space to show up without everybody else having something to say about it and to get in our way. And so absolutely men should be in the room. I'm thrilled that men are reading this book and publicizing it in mass quantities at this point, because I think this is always, we're better together and it's a together issue.
You're right, but if you look at all the data, for instance, how much money venture capitalists give to men versus women, how there's significant differences. And I was at a conference where companies were pitching to venture capitalists, and of the 12 companies that pitched, and there was only one woman in all 12 companies on the pitch platform, and she
Yeah.
didn't say a word.
Yeah, that makes sense. Women are also, even when women are the breadwinners, they do 60 to 80% of the household chores and mental labor of caregiving. They're the ones that, even if they work 10 hours a day and their male partner works 10 hours a day, they come home, the guy kicks his shoes off and the woman is taking care of dinner and Sally's birthday party and doing the laundry and all the other things. And so, there are barriers to women producing as much and being as available, and there are still women that crush it. And so this is why we need the men in the room, right? To say, hey, how about I do the dishes and you take care of dinner, so there's equal division of labor. Also, one of the chapters in the book that you were speaking to directly is called Be Less. The idea that women are less valuable, less trustworthy, And in entrepreneurship and entertainment, we are given less money for equally viable ideas. There is research behind that. So a man and a woman come to the table with an equal idea.
The man will get it.
Yeah, I mean, you automatically see a woman pull up to the table and think, you're automatically criticizing her, pulling things apart, and taking away credibility. You're trying to discredit her. Whereas with a man, I think we pour buckets of confidence into them, and we don't ask questions, and we're not super critical of them. Not anywhere equal to what we do to women. And so it's really unfortunate, but I do think that there are women only venture capitalist companies. I think the men that have the VC money are much more aware that women are actually amazing entrepreneurs and business owners with incredibly creative and worthy and marketable ideas. And so I think those tides are turning, but you're absolutely right. It's nowhere near equal right now.
But I'm going to bring up an issue that came up last week. My wife happens to be a Harvard Business School graduate, and we were at her reunion. And what I noticed were that men commented on the women's clothes, but they didn't comment on each other. And if you go into a business situation, men will always comment a woman is either too dowdy or too sexy. Yet they'll never say the same about a man.
Well, yeah, it's that critical piece. That's the 10th belief in the book is be sexy but sweet. We are.
How can you be both?
Exactly. Exactly. We're gonna fuck no matter what. But I think that when a woman walks into a room, there's first of all this tone that the way she presents to the world is, number one, important at all. It absolutely has nothing to do with what is in her brain. Two, we comment on what women look like as if it's important or as if she asked our opinion, which she didn't. And we also we place primary value on a woman's appearance. It's the first thing we comment on. It's where we put the most weight. That woman's visual value, that chapter 10 is, be sexy but sweet. Women are sexual, visual beings first, wives, nurturers, sacrificers second, and whatever else they have time for third.
Yes.
So you're like me, who doesn't really, I wear whatever I want. I present to the world however I feel like that day. And I don't have a husband or children. I really live to work because I love it so much. People don't know where to put me. And there's no bucket, right? There's not, oh, she works and she's a wife and a mom, or she's, a wife and a mom, and oh my gosh, she has a job too. There's a tone of infantilization. I can't tell you how many times I've met new people, and at 39 years old, I would say, oh yeah, I have this company. And they would say, you run a company all by yourself? Like I was a child. I can't imagine. It's embarrassing for women. I've never seen a 39-year-old man say, oh yeah, I've got this company. And people say, oh, you do? That's amazing. All by yourself. And you're like you would never say that to a man. And so we just have to be aware of these things, right? So that they don't come flying out of our mouths and perpetuate these beliefs in society.
We could go on and on. Your book again and your company?
Yes, my book is called Fuckless, A Guide to Wild, Unencumbered Freedom. My company is Work Well, W3RKWELL.
Okay, we only have a couple of minutes left. What would you like to leave our audience with?
There's work for all of us to do. The comments that I get from the book the most are from men wanting to contribute to society and watching the downfall of women in this country. They want to help. They want to be self-aware. I've gotten so much great feedback from the book. Everybody wants to be a more authentic version of themselves. And I think we also have to be responsible for helping other people feel psychologically safe to be themselves, whether that's race, gender, sexual orientation, what you're wearing, what you do with your life, whether you're a parent or not. I would love to see the world start encouraging and rewarding varieties of women. We teach men to be interesting, independent individuals. And I would love to see the world treat women as the same. And the second comment I get about the book is, I thought I was fuckless. I thought I lived this life of freedom, but a couple of these beliefs are still hanging on with me. So, to me, this is, especially at this time in history, work for all of us to do as a human race together.
Well, on that note, Gianni, your website and book one more time.
My website's giannabiscontini.com and workwell.com.
Okay, thank you so much for a very interesting time. Thank you.
Thank you.